last week I rode the whole Dirt Devil, the whole Tennessee Dirt Devil. It's the middle of June 2020, and I found that the bridge at South Lick Creek was out. And if you keep watching this video, you'll see how to get around it, because you're going to run into it pretty quick if you start where I did on the Dirt Devil. So I live north of Nashville, about 30 miles north of Nashville, up by the Kentucky state line. So once I got down to Nashville, I got on the Natchez Trace Parkway at the beginning of it. It's a federal parkway. It's kind of like the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. It's a federal park. No red lights, no commercial traffic, nice scenery. It's cool. It's got some good curves in it and stuff, but if you're an experienced rider, it's not really that fun. You have to really speed to go to have fun on it. You don't want to get a ticket. But if you're a beginner or whatever, it's an awesome road. So I got off at Highway 7 in Fly, Tennessee, and then jumped on the old Natchez Trace to get on the Dirt Devil. And that's where I started it at. I started on the east side, where it starts at Dutch Potts Hollow Road and the old Natchez Trace. And so I'm starting to do my first creek crossings here. And there's a lot of creek crossings on the Dirt Devil. I didn't know there was going to be so many. But so this was during the day. This was during the week. It was a Wednesday during the week, and so I just hopped on down here and was doing it by myself. I wish I had somebody to do it with me, but you just can't always find people to do things with you. So it seemed like I'm gonna sit at home and not do it, or just go. So I just went ahead and did it. And I don't have very much experience riding off road, so this was all new to me. So I was glad that it wasn't very challenging. Wasn't too challenging, because I've got lots of street experience, decades, but I don't have very much dirt experience. This is my first dirt bike. So right here on the left, I'm on South Lick Creek Road, and you can see where the bridge is out right there. They're building a new bridge or repairing the old one or whatever. I'm not sure. But that is right at Tom Railroad, Shoal Branch Road, and Lick Creek Road. So I pull over to look on my map and find a detour around that, since that bridge was out. And then I wasn't there a minute, and then this teenager pulls up on a Honda CRF250 Rally, and he's just checking to make sure everything's cool. And I tell him, I'm looking for a detour to get back on the Dirt Devil. And he lived down there. He acted like he wasn't really familiar with the Dirt Devil. But he said, hey, I can show you how to get around that bridge through the creek if you want me to show you. So I was like, heck yeah. So I believe his name was Carter, is what he introduced me as. I think it was Carter. So he was a teenager in that area, and he definitely could ride these gravel roads, as you'll see, in a little bit. I rode with him for a little bit, but so he takes me back to that bridge and shows me how to get across this creek. So this is what you want to do if you want to be able to complete the Dirt Devil. You're going to have to do what we did right here to get over this bridge that's out. To get around the bridge. So we just go right over here. There's the bridge. You go down. There's a little trail where people drive down into the creek. It's a little swimming hole. And he was like, hey, how's your balance? And I was like, it's pretty good. I do have good balance. I'm not a very good like I said, I don't have much experience, but I do have good balance. So I was definitely willing to try. And, it's just a Honda dirt bike, so if I drop it, I don't care. I've dropped the thing many times, so it's no big deal. That's the worst that could happen, so I'm up for it. So here we go, and like I said, I'm standing up. I don't have very many hours of experience at all standing up, off-road riding. So, but I've practiced a little bit in my backyard. So what little bit of practice that I've done paid off right here, because this was real mushy and stuff, and so it was definitely kind of testing my balance and all, but nothing too major. So anyway, this was the hardest part, was kind of going up this hill right here. But so we go under the bridge, through the creek, back up the other side of the bank right here, and then bam, that puts me back on Lick Creek Road, right there at Tom Railroad, at that intersection where the road changes. So I head west, and he was like, yeah, I'll ride with you for a little bit, and just kind of get you on your way. Which I'm glad he did, because as he was in front of me and I was watching him, me being a street rider, I always cover my front brake. That's all I use is my front brake. Riding sport bikes and cruisers and street bikes. And I was noticing that he had his right foot covering his rear brake all the time and not covering his front brake. And so I guess that's what you do riding dirt and gravel. You know, you don't want to use your front brake, which definitely makes sense. But I didn't see him using it at all, and I just saw him covering his rear brake. I mean, he was going around these curves right here that had gravel and stuff, like, you know, all in the corner, and he was riding right on the outside edge of it, like it didn't bother him at all, you know. So that was new to me. I was like, dang. So it was cool getting to watch him. Just for the couple miles that he rode in front of me, I really observed a lot and kind of learned a lot. Definitely that rear brake thing. So the whole rest of the Dirt Devil, I basically covered that rear brake in case, you know, I met a car, I was ready to stop, and I felt very comfortable slowing down just using the rear brake. So he peels off right here. He had to go back to his house or whatever, so he peels off. I keep going straight on the Dirt Devil. Now what I'm doing is I'm heading on the Dirt Devil, and basically the Dirt Devil kind of makes, you know, some loops, and it's got that one big loop at the south side. I'm doing it clockwise from Lick Creek Road. I'm going to do that big loop clockwise, you know, where the loop kind of starts at Johnny Davis Road, down Prim Springs Road. Take a left on Johnny Davis is what I do, because I'm doing it counterclockwise. So yeah, like I said, so now I'm just using my rear brake the whole time, not ever using my front brake. So that took some getting used to. It's going to take some getting used to transitioning from, you know, riding off-road using rear brake to riding back on the street and using front brake. But here was a little gas station right here. I can't remember the name of it, but you could probably pause the video and see the name of it. But it was a little general country store. Had one gas pump, the old style, you know, where you kind of turn it on, you can hear the pump running. I was glad I was there, because I was down to half a tank of gas, you know, and I was worried if I was going to have to come off the Dirt Devil and try to find a gas pump somewhere. But so I was really glad that was there. So I was back on a full tank of gas after about 50 miles, and so I wasn't worried, and I knew I could do, you know, a whole lot more and probably finish it with the gas I've got on now. So now I'm back into the creek crossings. I'm kind of on the south the south side of that loop. I think I am on Right Prong Blue Buck Road right now, and then here's a lot of creek crossings coming up. It was just cool. I mean, the whole thing was pretty cool. It was, you know, just being out in the country on these old dirt roads and gravel roads. And it's mostly clay dirt, so you really get traction on it. But this road was cool because it actually, the creek comes into the road, or the road, you know, follows the creek or whatever. So you're basically riding through the creek for like 100 yards or so. I mean, a long way. It's just a small little spring or branch or whatever, little creek, but it was flowing pretty good. And you're just riding through it, you know, for a long way. So that was definitely a pretty cool road. I've never rode on a road like that before, that rode through the creek so long. So that was cool. The roads down there are mostly like the clay dirt, and the gravel is mostly that real fine, gritty creek gravel, you know. So it's really, you know, most of it's kind of hard packed, you know, when you're not in the creeks and stuff. It's mostly hard packed, so traction was not a problem. It didn't, you know, I've ridden on some gravel roads around like Westmoreland and up around Sumner County, Tennessee, where I'm from, and a lot of that gravel, I guess, is trucked in from a quarry, you know, just kind of like the same kind of gravel you get on your driveway. And that's not fun to ride in. You're just constantly correcting, you know, you're constantly squirming to the left and the right and shimmying all over the place and having to balance and steer and stuff, and it really gets old. But this wasn't like that, of course, except for when you're riding through the creeks like you are now. But for the most part, the roads being that clay and gritty creek gravel, it was fine to ride on. It was kind of like, you know, what you see like the dirt tracks races on TV or whatever, you know. I mean, it was just real hard packed, and you got good traction. It wasn't slippery. So that's one thing that I was worried about when I was going to do the Dirt Devil, was I was afraid it was just going to be miles and miles of slippery, gravel, and it wasn't like that. So you could really eat up the miles on the dirt and gravel roads. It didn't wear you out, so it didn't get frustrating. So it's definitely a lot of fun. I definitely would do it again. It was, but I would want to, have a bike that I wouldn't mind dropping, because I never dropped my bike on doing the Dirt Devil. There was a time or two when I came kind of close doing all these creek crossings where there was maybe a big rock up underneath the water I couldn't see, and it kind of kicked my front wheel to the right or left. But I never did drop it. The only time I dropped it was in my campground when my kickstand sank in too far. So I guess right here, I think you're fixing to be able to see a street sign when I get to the end of this road. And like I said, I think this is Right Prong Blue Buck Road. You'll be able to pause the video right up here. You'll see the street sign on the right. Kind of get your bearings where I'm at. Yeah, I think it's that Prong Road, Right Prong Road. And so then I'm taking a left on Blue Buck Creek Road. And continuing doing the loop clockwise. So this is kind of a steep hill. The video never does do it justice, I mean, it wasn't challenging or anything, but the videos never do really do the hills justice. You can't tell the steepness of them. But so, so I didn't have a trouble. Now I'm running, my tires are Shinko 700s that I just put on there. I rode them to the Dragon, so I rode them to the Smoky Mountains from Nashville, so I put about 800 something miles on them that trip. So I guess I've got about 1,000 miles on them, but they still got plenty of tread on them. But they're more of a street biased tire. So this is a pretty cool creek crossing right here. I think it's maybe the Duck River, or maybe Big Swan Creek. Maybe that's Big Swan Creek. I ran into this guy on a sport bike out here in the middle of a dirt roads. That was kind of funny. Wasn't expecting that. I mean, it was a rough road that he was on too. But so let's see. I think now maybe I have gotten to. I'm on up on the top side of that loop. I might have already completed the loop. That bottom, that southernmost big loop. Yes, I have. Now I am on Prim Spring. No, I'm on Thompson Lane. And this is a loop. As you can see all these caves and overhangs and stuff back in there. This loop had a lot of scenery. And I almost didn't take this because these two loops at the north end of the Dirt Devil tracks, they're just loops that you go down and you just loop around, and it brings you right back to exactly where you started, and you have to backtrack. So I almost didn't do these loops because of that. If I didn't have the time to spare, then I might not would have done these. I might would have skipped them, but I wanted to do every mile of it. So I'm glad I did, because there was great scenery. Like this house right here had a little overhang with the creek behind it. When they had a little patio set up, there's a waterfall right there. These last two loops had some of the neatest things to see on them. They had a lot of creek crossings, and it just had some neat scenery on them and stuff, the creeks and the little waterfalls and stuff like that. So I'm going around the Thompson Lane loop. I take a right on Cavender Road, and so now I'm doing this little loop section counterclockwise. I'm taking Cavender Road up to Brown Hollow Road, taking a left on Brown Hollow Road, and then taking a left on Willow Springs Road that brings me back down to Thompson Lane. But this was definitely a cool loop. So if you do the Dirt Devil, you really need to do these two loops. These are probably the highlights of it. This is where I saw some side-by-sides and stuff like that. They were, doing this loop and stuff. Like I said, though, I really didn't see. I was doing this on a Wednesday, on a work week. A lot of people were probably at work. I didn't see very many other bikes. I only saw a couple other bikes and and a few other side by sides. I didn't see any Jeeps or 4x4s at all. So I had the whole thing to myself. So this is a pretty cool little stretch going through the creek. It's a pretty good, I'm riding through the creek a good ways to cross it. But like I said, my tires did good. I mean, I was afraid this was all going to be slick and slimy and stuff, and I don't know. It really wasn't. It really wasn't slimy. Like I said, the tires I have are really not knobbies. They're Shinko 700s. It's a 60/40 tire biased more for the street because I do more street road riding. But I didn't have any problem at all with traction with those tires. So they really, really did good. So I'm really happy with them. There's an old spring house or something. So there's a lot of people with like some farms and stuff back here, or like some camps. It looks like it was like church camps or Boy Scout camps or stuff like that. So now after this loop, then I'm going to take a left on Beach Valley Road, and I'm going to do that loop. No, I take that back. Yeah, I'm going to take a left on Beach Valley Road, heading back towards Lick Creek. And I'm going to go up, and I hit Highway 7. The old barn right here. It's about to fall down. Right on the road, right beside the road. Now I'm fixing to come up on there's a challenging part. I think it's Ben Fly Road, and I do this. Well, I'll talk about it when I get there. But for the most part, the most challenging thing about this is the creek crossings. That's the only part where you feel like you're gonna you could drop your bike, except for this part right here. This was Ben Fly Road, which was that little loop at the very top of the Dirt Devil was South Lick Road and Ben Fly Road. I'm doing this loop. This is really steep right here. The camera doesn't do it justice, but it's really steep. It's one of those hills where your bike is starting to slide, and you don't know if you're going to be able to stop it. It would be one of those things where it would be better to be coming up this hill. So next time if I do this little Ben Fly Road loop, I'm going to do it clockwise instead of counterclockwise. I'm doing it counterclockwise, and I would rather do it clockwise, so I'm going up that hill. But that was the most challenging part of just not a creek crossing. Just as far as the dirt road, real steep, real rocky, where I was trying to take it real slow. But so anyway, but the whole thing, I mean, it was not very challenging. It was perfect for me, for a rider that's not very experienced, to kind of build, some experience and some skills riding dirt and gravel. Okay, so I've done the whole thing. I've done all the 120 miles of the Dirt Devil, and now I'm riding through the field where my camp is. And so I'm setting camp up. So it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. I started riding at about 11 o'clock and rode the whole 120 miles of the Dirt Devil. And I got done about 4:30. So the whole thing took me about 5 or 6 hours. Now, I didn't even stop. I just stopped to get gas. I didn't never stop to eat lunch or anything like that. I never got hungry. I just wanted to keep going, get it knocked out, and get back to camp, get camp set up, make sure I had everything set up before dark and stuff, and then, get something to eat at camp. But, so you could do the whole thing in a day, even stopping, for little breaks and eating lunch and stuff like that, that you could take 8 hours probably, if you're stopping and enjoying some of the scenery and taking some breaks and stuff. 8 to 10 hours maybe, but just non-stop it took me about 6 hours. So yeah, it was definitely cool. I mean, I definitely would like to do it again. As I know, there's a lot of work went into making the map. So the guy did a good job, and it was really fun. So I'm putting up my Hennessy Hammock. It's my Jungle Expedition, I believe, XL is what I'm camping in. Getting my fire going with my little fire stick starter, which I just like to use. I've got a lighter, but I like to use my little fire starter stick because it's just cool. It's just fun. And you don't have to worry about it getting wet. It could get wet and it's still going to work. So it's nice to have it. So I'll know I'll always be able to start a fire. It's pretty easy. I carry what you saw me putting down starting as my starter was dryer lint. I save a sandwich bag full of dryer lint, and I just bring it with me when I go camping, and it fires right up. I mean, as soon as the spark hits it, it catches on fire. So I got my little fire going. There's my little camping chair. You see how small that bag was? It fits in my little mini saddlebags. Perfect, and it's so lightweight. I got it off Amazon. It's like a Sportneer or something, and it's very comfortable too. I mean, it's not the most sturdiest thing, but it's never given out or anything. So I'm drying my socks off because they're wet by the fire and cooking my smoked sausages. Yeah, after I've ate, it's time to go to bed. So like and subscribe to this video if you like videos like this, because I'm putting them out pretty frequently. So catch you guys on the next one.